Mrs. Kendall's third period English class at Riverview High had a reputation for being unforgiving. Not because the material was too hard, but because the teacher made it that way. Stern and cold, Mrs. Kendall believed discipline mattered more than empathy. She ruled her classroom like a courtroom. Mistakes were crimes and silence was guilt. Among the rows of teenagers sat a quiet girl named Eliza Moore. She rarely spoke, kept her eyes on her notebook, and sat in the same back corner every day. Her uniform was perfectly ironed, her assignments always submitted on time, but she never raised her hand, never joined discussions, and never made a sound unless called upon. And Mrs. Kendall noticed. "Miss Moore," she snapped one Wednesday morning during a lesson on literary themes, "are you mute or just uninterested in education?" The class froze. Eliza's cheeks flushed. She looked down, saying nothing. "Well," Mrs. Kendall continued, pacing slowly toward her desk, "I assume since your mouth never moves, there must be nothing in that pretty little head." A few students gasped. Others looked down, uncomfortable. No one dared intervene. Eliza blinked rapidly but didn't cry. She just closed her notebook and gently folded her hands. Mrs. Kendall shook her head. "Honestly, I don't know why some students even bother showing up. Education clearly isn't a priority for everyone." At the end of class, Eliza quietly packed her things, but instead of heading to her next period, she walked straight to the main office. "I need to make a call," she told the receptionist. "Of course, Eliza," the woman said kindly. "Do you want to use the counselor's phone number? I'll use mine." She stepped outside the building and called her father. By lunchtime, the school was buzzing. The principal, Mr. Vasquez, had been pulled from a meeting. Two school board officials were seen entering the building, and Mrs. Kendall was summoned to the office before the final bell. That evening, the staff received an all-faculty email. "Urgent, mandatory meeting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Attendance required." The next morning, Mrs. Kendall sat stiffly in the front row of the staff conference room. The principal stood before everyone, flanked by a sharply dressed man in a dark suit. "This is Mr. Jameson Moore," Mr. Vasquez said. "Some of you may recognize him as the chair of the State Education Oversight Committee." Gasps rippled through the room. A few teachers exchanged wide-eyed glances. "He's also the father of one of our students, Eliza Moore." Mrs. Kendall's face drained of color. Mr. Moore stepped forward, his voice even and cold. "My daughter has always been quiet. She processes the world differently. She's thoughtful, sensitive, and brilliant. But yesterday she came home visibly shaken because someone in this school, a teacher, decided to humiliate her for being exactly who she is." He paused, letting the silence sink in. "There will be no tolerance for educators who use shame as a tool of instruction," he continued. "Effective immediately, that teacher's employment is terminated." Mrs. Kendall opened her mouth, but Mr. Moore cut her off with a look. "We entrust our children to this institution," he said, turning to the rest of the staff. "And that trust comes with responsibility." Eliza didn't speak up because she was afraid of causing trouble. But she won't be afraid again, and neither will any student who walks into this school. The meeting ended with no applause, just stunned silence. Mrs. Kendall left through the side exit, her resignation already filed. Word spread fast. Parents called in, praising the decision. Students whispered Eliza's name in awe, many finally seeing her not as the invisible girl in the corner, but as the quiet storm who shook the system. That afternoon, Eliza returned to class, took her usual seat, and opened her notebook. She didn't smile, she didn't gloat. But when her new English teacher called on her later that week, she raised her hand, for the very first time. And when she spoke, her voice was soft, but it carried.